Greetings and welcome to another video. So today I'm doing something that I've never done before, something that has been highly requested in the past in terms of, individual requests. People have asked me, analyze my gameplay. Can you help me? Can you coach me? Please, please, please. So today we're going to be doing it for someone who was one of the first to ask me. He's a player who, as you can see, is playing, he's playing a very weak team, but it's because he's struggling. He's in Division 9. He has a good team himself, and so we're going to be here today to analyze his gameplay, give him some pointers, and it basically comes down to two factors. Nonetheless, let me know what you guys think. Is it something you want to see more of? I'm not sure myself. I want to keep doing these, but yeah, let you guys let me know, apologies, what you think of this format. How it's going to work is essentially I'm going to just point out the first few mistakes of the two main themes that occur in his gameplay that really need to be addressed. There's many things that I could say, but we want to keep it simple. Improve a couple things at a time max so that you can sort of keep track of everything, and then as slowly you start adding more and more things into your gameplay. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the reason I pulled it back is because the first mistake that happens is a bad pass, and there you have it. Bad passes, bad decision making, and in terms of passing is one of the main mistakes this player makes, because essentially when you make a bad pass, it has a double effect. Not only do you lose possession, but your opponent gains possession. And obviously making a bad pass is not a bad thing. Once you're in the opponent's box, it's time to make risky plays. It's time to go for it. But in your own half, in the build up, it's not the time, because at that point you're giving away the ball in a moment where you are risking being countered attack because you don't have people there. And this is what happens right here, right? Awar gets the ball and he runs into space. There's no one really open, and he goes for Griezmann, and this is just a pass that most advanced players will never attempt because it just won't ever work. So in these situations, the best thing to do is, all right, there's not really a clear pass, something that I quite enjoy, because obviously we know FIFA 20 offensive AI, how poor it is. It doesn't support you. Ball roll, move up here, go back, just ball roll, turn around, look at all this space, run into this, maybe your winger comes in support, but basically stop yourself, turn around, reset, recycle, and find a safer option. And shortly thereafter, even though he regains possession, same thing happens here, right? There's no need for a square pass here. Absolutely unnecessary, and you essentially give your opponent a free attack. A high-level player here scores because you've just lost your ball in your own half. This is literally unacceptable in terms of if you want to win games, right? So basically here, what you got to do, again, stay calm. You've got the ball. You've just regained it with Mendy. You've done the right thing to dribble outwards, right? Maybe no need for that fake shot. So now you're in this position, and you're worried about this guy, but he's still far enough. So you still take a few steps and dribble this way, right? Even if you see he selected him, but in the end, he actually switched out of it. So you would have had all the time in the world to just run this way and then play it out. At that point, is he going to switch back to him and pressure you from behind? No problem. You can then pass into the winger here, call him short, use the R1 call player short feature. If he pressures you this way, then this guy becomes open with a square pass and he's safe, right? Alternatively, if he pressures you and this is blocked, you ball roll and then you create the angle to pass to him. Or alternatively, you turn back around, back to the keeper, and then work it to the fullback. Essentially, you want to be as efficient as possible. Otherwise, you're only hurting yourself. Now, the second main thing to work on for this player is the dribbling, right? Passing mistakes, giving away turnovers is number one and happen the most. Number two is turnovers via bad dribbling decisions. And a lot of times this can be negated or just solved by not pressing sprint until you're absolutely certain, right? And this is one of those cases. Because you're sprinting with Griezmann and you're just full guns blazing at this point, the first touch isn't really that great, right? If you don't sprint, right, and you shield it off, maybe at this point your touch is more forgiving, it's not as strong, and you have some room to play with, right? You're obviously still here, but at this point you can ball roll, turn around, pass back to Pele, do a 1-2 or something like that, but you can't be sprinting into the opponent. You're just throwing away a counter. So you always have to be mindful, perform safe dribbling acts and be as efficient as humanly possible in this counterattack, because although you are attacking his defense, it's still a premature counterattack, right? If you lose the ball here, boom, he's already got the ball in his own half, almost close to the halfway line, and he's already got your team deep, and he can, counter you really easily. Similar situation here. You actually get in a really good position with Pele, and now he's got his Bartra selected. At this point here, this is where you kind of have to be quick to recognize that this dribbling option is not an option. He's positioned himself pretty well. You kind of took the long route. So at this point, you have to just do what works in FIFA 20. What works in FIFA 20 when you want to reset, turn away, you've moved the ball up the field, unless, it's not really a game where coast to coast are, a thing, where dribbling is, I guess, taking people on this way is not as good as it used to be, right? So what works is making use of the runners in behind, because most other times they're, too deep in the field. But this time your runners are in a good spot. So what you got to do here is, ball roll, right? Reset. And at that point, you can either play off of the winger, do a 1-2, you can go back to him and then back to him, or ball roll turn and just feed it into this massive gap here with Griezmann, played off from there. And that's what you got to do in these scenarios, right? You just got to succumb to the fact, okay, you're a lone real striker, it's a 1v1 2 3 4 if you include him. It's not going to work by just dribbling around him. If you want to really take him on, at that point you just have to stop sprinting, right? Point this way and then do a running scoop turn and hope that you get past him. But even that's a lower percentage play than the first option I gave you. Now from this goal kick, obviously we could see what you're doing, because the mechanics that work. We've seen you do ball rolls, we've seen you do drag backs, and here you do the drag back. But let's pull it back. Obviously you get away with Mur there, he doesn't really use it. And when you get the ball to Emerson, here's the thing, right? You got a couple options. You do have Puyol, and that's what you end up going for. And eventually, that's not the right option because he is kind of under pressure. So at this point, this is what you got to do. You have to ball roll down and call and pass into the winger, right? That should be enough. Sometimes, if you're playing a really good opponent, he'll position his fullback in front of your winger. At that point, either you understand that and do a lob through ball over, right? Or you call him short, call the winger short, get him to come here, and you have a super safe pass. But essentially, doing a drag back here, I know it's an effective skill move, but it just doesn't make sense. Yes, you can abuse it, but it's just you're doing it with your clunky fullback. Obviously, Emerson is a decent fullback, but your defenders, as good as they may be, unless you've got I don't even know, Team of the Year Marcelo from FIFA 17. Not all of them are going to be able to feel as smooth and nimble on the ball, so you want to be efficient. And what's super efficient is not the 180-degree exit drag back, but the ball rolls, right? Doing the ball roll, seeing what you got. At this point, when you do the ball roll down, that's enough time that you buy yourself to either bait him and make him commit this way, at which point you can turn, dribble in, or he doesn't bait, but you call it the winger short, comes here, pass to him. And I know you can do it because this play, showcases that you know what you're doing in this one. Like, this is a good play. Nice triangles. The ball is moving fast. Ball roll into a lob through a ball. It passes into Neymar, but what goes wrong, right? Why do you lose the battle here? And essentially, you just got to be aware, right? He's got Semedo, right? And even though you're on the ball with Neymar, it's gold Neymar against gold Semedo, but Neymar's the one dribbling. You're going to get, you should know by now that you're going to get caught up, right? Well, if you don't now, you do. And so what you have to do here is you take a second touch, and the second touch is what screws you. So instead of the second touch being a sprint, if with this touch, you do what works, and what works in FIFA 20 a lot is do the ball roll upwards, you send him flying, right? He's not going to be able to stop in time. And once he's here and you've done the ball roll, you can just cut back inside. You can pass into Awar, who maybe passes into Pele, or maybe Awar just keeps dribbling. You get the point, right? But here, you have to be aware of who's chasing you, right? And be as efficient as possible. You should know by now at this point, this battle's lost. You can't keep dribbling. And even if you do, that's not super efficient in FIFA 20 anyways. You always want to look to go this way, to bait him, ball roll, get him fly forwards, and then work the ball back around. Now, this coming play is important because although you do score, there are some things that I think are relevant to be explained here. Now, you have the ball with Aura, you get it with Pele, and you start dribbling downwards thinking, okay, what do I do? What do I do? You can see you're thinking, right? You think, what am I doing? What am I doing? And it takes a while. And then once you do make a decision, finally, things move on. And, you start moving the ball and things start happening. You get it to Griezmann. You do a fake shot, an really unnecessary rainbow flake, but it is what it is, and you score. But if we pull it back, this is the moment, right? So you're dribbling with Pele, and I'm assuming that you're looking for a pass here, but nothing's happening. And so that's why you just keep dribbling, right? Otherwise, you could have just passed it back to here and move it. A lot of players are just have this tunnel vision, right, where you're just focused on the offense, and if nothing's there, you just wait for something to happen. If you really can't pass backwards and, you know, pass it back here, move here, maybe pass it to here, look for this fullback, you know, reset everything. If you don't have the patience for that, if you can't train yourself, you have to use the call player short feature, right? R1, aim towards this guy, make him come short, figure out a way to make it work, and call him short so that you have the option. Otherwise, you're just sitting there and you're relying on an offensive AI that, quite frankly, in FIFA 20 does not exist. Okay, so you can't rely on that. Either you start calling players short, or you accept the fact that you're gonna have to go back a lot of times, reset until something opens up. Because this time it worked out for you, but you were lucky for two reasons. One, he's really bad at pressuring you, and two, you pass back finally, and then for some reason you decide to dribble into your opponents, right? So again, you got away with murder there because any better opponent would have taken the ball off you here, right? Somehow you don't lose the ball, you dribble straight into danger, right? Obviously, sometimes you have to do that, but you're at the halfway line. This is not the time. The halfway line, your defense, this is where the ball has to be moving, going to safe, high percentage plays, say areas, keep it moving. Don't look for trouble. There's no reason to dribble past this. Obviously, it's fun when it works out, but the only reason it works out here is not necessarily because you dribbled past them well, but more so because he didn't do anything, right? So in this situation, it does lead to good things, but pass it back to him. Either you dribble in a safe area here or here, or you just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep the ball moving. Don't dribble in, because this time it worked out, but again, it won't always be like that. Now here, he messes up the shot, and you have quite an interesting counterattack. Just give you a few pointers here. Now, obviously, you got a really nice triangle going on here. Pele's in, essentially. So if you can get this ball into Pele, which you try, but obviously you fail, then you're going to be in a good spot, because Pele's probably going to be faster than the center back. Now, the reason it doesn't work, obviously, is blocked. So you got a couple options here. Ball rolls. Two options with the ball roll. You either ball roll up and hope that he overcommits down, and then you have this passing lane, or you ball roll down and you hope for this curved passing lane this way. Or alternatively, you can risk it with a lob through pass. I know you could do it because you did it earlier, and you hope it goes over, but again, it's kind of risky because he's right here. He could block it. Option number 3 or 4, you make use of this triangle you got. You see this triangle? Bang! Triangles are the shapes that help you, you know, get past hurdles. This pass doesn't work, no problem. Pass it back, and then a first time pass into Pele. Boom, and you're in. Now here, a similar situation on the wing, which you should have learned from the previous one. Semedo's chasing you, and you do get away with it this time because the rainbow flick works, but eventually you lose it. How to avoid this altogether and not rely on something like the rainbow flick, which I know it can be fun, but it's really not efficient. This is what you got to do, right? At this point, right here, instead of doing the rainbow flick, what do? Ball roll, he goes flying, and then you can turn away. Ball roll up, boom. Imagine you're like one of those guys that goes against the Bulls, and they have the red thingy, and they wave it, and the bull just goes through it, and they keep, you know, I don't know the exact words. It's same concept, right? Oh, look, your teammate has a red jersey. Ball roll up, he goes flying, and boom, you have all this space. You have the defense against 2 strikers. This is a massive FIFA 20 opportunity, and you have to make use of it. This is all the patterns that happen in this game, and you need to be aware of them. Again, on the theme of the bad passes, absolutely no reason here with Aouar to do a square pass to Neymar. Obviously, if you have fun doing that, by all means, I don't want to take away the fun in doing like weird fancy passes at weird times. But from a winning standpoint, right, you're in this with this team in Division 9, and you know the mechanics. So to help you, right, what I'm telling you is the first thing you need to worry about is being as efficient as possible, giving your opponent as little gifts, quote unquote, as possible. And what you do to do that is focus on clean, easy passes. Focus, divide the pitch in 3 sections: defense, midfield, offense, until you get into the final third, right? There's 3 thirds. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, unless obviously there's a massive gaping hole and you want to do like a lob through ball, sure, whatever. But keep it simple. No reason to dribble into space, keep the ball moving into the safe areas, the high percentage plays. No reason to do this. This was something that you did throughout the entire match. So many passes that essentially gifted your opponent counterattacks, and the reason and the way you get over this hurdle is not by learning some crazy skill. It's not by learning some crazy tactic or players, or no, it's just by making yourself efficient, because you're better than these players. You have the better teams. Now it's all about, beating yourself, because you're your own enemy in these situations. Same thing here, although this could have been a finger slip, I'm not sure. A first time square or lob through pass, I'm not sure what it is. Again, keep it simple. Take a touch, control the ball. Or if you want to do a first time pass, it's got to be a first time ground pass into Griezmann, and then you play it out from there, because this is a great counterattack opportunity. Don't rush it. Don't do crazy passes. And again here, a really, dangerous area to be doing sort of things like this. Giving the ball to the opponent, you get away with it because he passes it straight back to you. But essentially, right here, first of all, this fake shot is kind of unnecessary. It doesn't necessarily speed you up, but it is what it is. It doesn't do any harm, I guess. Move down. You've done all the right things, right? This is exactly what I was saying. Run into the free space, and you did. You ran into this free space. Okay, there's no winger, so what do, right? Don't panic, right? You got a couple meters here to play with. You got a couple meters. You could keep dribbling. You could definitely keep dribbling this way, and then when he comes close to you, you can ball roll, turn around, and then pass into him, right? Or if you keep dribbling and he tries to cover the pass, you just keep dribbling because he's not pressuring you. You have to be aware of these things, and at that point, maybe you open up the square pass into your CM, something like that. But this pass is way too premature. It's obvious, right? It's not something that you don't need a degree to understand that this is a rush pass and you messed up the pass, and that's the problem here. But the problem more so is that how frequent it is. It's maybe you needed someone to tell you you do this all the time, right? So to make sure that Division 9 becomes a breeze, that's what you got to do. You got to limit these mistakes to 0, right? Keep it clean, and you will literally not concede goals anymore. And then the final thing, because most of this just repeats, you concede a corner here, and maybe something happened in this play that triggered you, right? Because you do press pause, and you go in your settings, and you go in your customized controls, and you turn on manual switching, or maybe you already had it on manual, I'm not sure. But the reason why you cannot have it on manual, even though I myself know how many times, even if I have it on airball, is the computer's switching system messes me up. I know it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's by far the best option, because you concede, let's just play it out. You concede a cheesy goal here, right? But essentially, it's your fault you conceded this, because you gifted him a free goal. Because if you're going to have manual, like, what are you doing selecting this guy, right? If you want to be manually selecting players, which means it will not help you in air balls and crosses like the normal setting does, which if you would have had that, you would have not conceded this, because you would have been on Pele or someone else, and you would have been able to spam circle and clear this. If you're going to be on manual, you have to be mindful about it and actively switch. Here, you did nothing, essentially, right? And even though it's a cheesy goal, it deserves to go in for the pure fact that you did nothing. You let him cross. You're selecting someone far away, and he gets 2 free headers, because thank God the AI, at least for once, didn't do everything, right, for you. But essentially, that's what happens here. Go back to airballs. It's worth it. It makes it easier. Most pros don't even use, airball, so there's no need, or manual, sorry. So there's no need to not use the airball feature. Anyways, that's going to be it from me today. The player in question ended up winning this game 3-1, so obviously that's good, but arguably it was harder than it should have been. Arguably there were too many mistakes. There were about over 10 times where a mistake was a result, or losing possession was a direct result of making a bad pass. Or there were almost as many times where losing the ball was a result of a bad dribble. So essentially, there's also many things I could say defensively, but to focus, right? Because the first step is, okay, you're struggling with Division 9, how do I get to the next step? Well, the way you do that is you make yourself as efficient as humanly possible. And the way you do that is you stop making careless passing decisions in your own half, in the midfield. You keep it simple. You look for the space. You dribble into the space. If you see no one, instead of just standing there, you either call someone short and then you pass into them, or you keep the ball moving until you find someone, because being stagnant in the middle could be risky. It led you, obviously unfortunate here, no score, to a couple of scenarios where you got away luckily and dribbled into players like I showed you earlier. And pretty much that's it. If you can manage to limit these mistakes, if you can manage to be as efficient as possible, you will win, because it comes down to decision making at this level. Your team is better, your skills are level, you know more about the game than these Division 9 opponents that you're facing. Now it's up to you to make the correct decisions. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how good you are if you keep, doing a square pass in your midfield and passing it to your opponent. Eventually you will concede. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was useful. Let me know your guys' thoughts. It's a first for me with this format. Didn't really know how to approach it, but this is what we ended up with. Until next time, peace out.